Dwight Hanson, he's with Stephen Covey, also works at the Speed of Trust. He travels the world working with large corporations, small companies, and the government agencies, counties, and cities. He's here tonight to do a presentation for us on one that he does with other counties and cities on a survey. He was going to do slides for us, take a few minutes, explain to us what he's done for other counties and cities, not only here in Utah, but in the United States. Anything else like that? Right? Did you get that? Okay.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm, as announced, Dwight Hanson. I've been with Franklin Covey for over 10 years. Worked around the world, especially a lot of focus on city, county, state, federal government, as well as your private organizations as well. So I see you have a full agenda, so I'm going to be quick with this. Just a little bit about Franklin Covey. We are in the business of performance improvement, and we have a unique approach to that in that we feel that we can get greater performance through changes in human behavior. So we're in the human behavior change business. We can help influence how people behave. We think that can help make our organizations better. So what we're really going to focus on for just a couple of minutes is what we call a culture audit. And so we're making an offer here for a culture audit, and we call it an Organizational Trust and Engagement Index. And the acronym is OTEI. And this particular survey is a measure of how people behave. So to be specific, before I jump into being specific, and I got to look up here, we do a lot of work, as I said, with government agencies. And the outcome of OTEI is to obtain a behavioral baseline of the trust dynamics that would exist within the county. That's the purpose. Give you that behavioral baseline, and I want you to know it's completely anonymous. There's no name taken. It's an anonymous instrument. And let's talk quickly about what it measures. So there's really two big components that we measure when we do the culture audit. The first one is the 4 pillars of credibility. And I'm going to talk about those in just a few minutes. And 13 high leverage behaviors as found in the book Speed of Trust, written by Stephen M. Covey. And these two elements are critical. They're a critical measure for any organization to get their arms around, because it's our credibility. What's our credibility like as an organization? How's that perceived from the vantage point of your employees? This is not done from the public. This is done from within. And how are we doing with how we behave? Key elements that drive performance. So let's look at the 4 cores of credibility. You probably have seen this. Integrity and intent are measured, which really roll up to a competence score. It's got our character score, and then capabilities and results. How are we doing with our capabilities? How are we doing with our ability to generate outcomes? Results are really a function of our competence, how we're doing it as an organization in that area. So that's really what first thing we're measuring. The other thing we're measuring is these 13 behaviors. High leverage behaviors. You can read them for yourself. You're probably familiar with some of these. Talk straight. Create transparency is one of the conversations we just had. It's a behavior of creating transparency. People need that if they're going to trust you. Righting wrong, showing loyalty, and so on and so forth. All of these are critical behaviors for driving extraordinary organizational performance. So, why do it? Well, we think the results will be able to give you a good baseline of what's working culturally in the organization and what's not working, what we could probably improve on as an organization to become yet a better organization than we are now. So, how does it work? It's an electronic instrument. Really, really simple. The county manager would email a link out to To the employees, it takes about 10 minutes to do the survey. Individuals will click on the submit button, the data rolls up to our office anonymously, all the IP is stripped off of it so we can't even tell who's sent that in, and then a report is generated which I would compile, as well as a set of 8 slides which draw out the highlights of this assessment and present it to you for your edification and benefit. So $1,500 for the initial survey, and $500 if you wanted to do a post-survey a year or something down the road. I get absolutely no benefit from this personally. The survey is at cost. My interest is to help the county be better. And I think we're doing a lot of great things, but I think there's a real benefit to getting your arms around what this culture is like, what people are saying, and what the credibility, how it's viewed within the organization, and how we're showing up behaviorally. So that can give you some really good insights on, again, where your strengths are and what you need to do.
Now, if we did these 2 things, the 2 assessments, at the end of it, if we find out that there's something wrong with the culture, what would you recommend we do then?
You know, various city, county organizations do have a variety of options, right? You can get the data and say, you know what, that's really helpful. We're just going to continue to be as good a leaders as we can and do nothing, which is an acceptable answer. We have other organizations that say, you know what, we feel like we really need to do something about this, and they want to engage in doing something, some developmental work as leaders, development work within the actual county. So it just depends on how ambitious you are, what you want to do, what the data says, and what your agenda is, how much is on your plate. A lot of right answers.
Is this, can this be used as just an avenue for disgruntled employees to complain about something?
Well, of course, you're going to have your happy employees and your disgruntled employees are going to weigh in.
But is it sophisticated enough to parse that out? I guess what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, do you just take an average, because an average is not a good statistical
We're going to take an average of all the data and roll it up for you, the disgruntled and the highly satisfied employees. If you feel like in the spirit of transparency, you really have to get an average of where the whole slice is, right? For the organization, we're not going to head it in any way, shape, or form. That's not for us to do. And again, in the spirit of transparency, gives you the unvarnished look at where you're at. And,
is this a 1 through 10 type answer, or do you have comments? Verbal?
it's usually 1 through 5 or 10, and at the very end there are some areas for written comments.
You were all sent, I think, a copy of a sample from another agency, so you can see what the questions look like.
Right.
It seems like they're all tied to the individual, not the organization.
Well, there's 2 different slices in the data. One is how individuals in the county would evaluate themselves relative to the 4 cores and 13 behaviors. And then they evaluate the organization and how they feel the organization is doing relative to the 4 cores and 13 behaviors. So it's both, which is really interesting feedback, because you're going to be able to see how do people evaluate themselves and how they evaluate the organization. And as you can imagine, there's a difference always, and that gap has a story to tell.
The sample that we saw, would that be the actual?
It would.
So it was kind of layered on the.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward. It's not the most sophisticated survey. It's just measuring perception of people.
Now this 1,500, you don't have to commit to the post at the current time. If we were satisfied and thought that the first one gave us information
Absolutely.
and wanted to do it a year later, a follow-up, we can do that at that time.
What is the value of the post? Or you see the result, you take action, and then measure the response?
Yeah, most city and county governments will do a post because they want to see how they're moving the needle in their organization relative to credibility.
And what's the time frame between the
9 months to a year. Typically, we have city government right here in Utah that does it every year. They just feel like it's an important measure relative to their culture. So, the other thing I would like to just be really candid about, we do not offer this in the spirit of well, everything's broken and not working. Most of our organizations are quite healthy organizations wanting to get better. So my motive, my intent isn't, I don't have an agenda in here saying, we got to fix stuff. I don't have enough visibility into what's going on in the county from that perspective. My agenda is, let's just get the baseline and see what needs to be done to be a better county government. And I'm assuming the best, and we're moving from good to great and not broken to good. That's
It's
fine.
not a witch hunt, and I may point out that Dwight lives here in the valley.
That's right. I'm a resident, been here 3 years, and couldn't be happier. I'll end my life here. When it's all over, it'll be right here in Weaver City. We love this place.
Mike, when this came up, you made the comment that this was an administrative deal, not a legislative. But I guess the reason we're talking about it is support. What's your perception? Is this something that would help with our employees to get a perception?
I honestly don't know. I have requests for $800,000 of pay raises and additional employees, which likely isn't going to happen. So I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of disgruntled employees. Now, I appreciate that the statement that this is an anonymous thing. It's not anonymous. I'm the boss. All the questions reflect back to the organization and who runs the organization. So it does directly and eval as council. So it's an indicator of our performance of sorts. I can pretty well guarantee you that mine will not be judged well after I turn down most of what's being requested. That's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there. I'm not sure of how that plays into how, I mean, I can make them all happy if you give them all the raises and so forth. I don't know how that works. And the one that I've not participated in sometimes, I participated in other similar years ago. And they were more satisfaction surveys than they were evaluation surveys. They tend to show satisfaction. The only other concern I have, it's not very much money. It's not that big of a deal. Around 20% of our employees don't have computers. And so I can't send them an email or a link. So I'm not sure how we work around that.
As you made it, is it because like
You'd have to make stations available.
the public
do
works on
something.
papers, the trash traffic goes.
I mean, we don't have emails for them here. We don't have any of those things here for them.
We could possibly set up a station here and in 30 days and stop by and just.
I don't know how that works.
That's typically what happens.
Whether they would do that on their
Organizations
own
like this.
time or not.
How do you get paper information to all employees in the county now?
Those are department heads. It's their responsibility to send them the information. So if there's insurance issues, if there's any issues like that, that's disseminated through the department heads.
Pam, question?
Is this just focused on the council, or does it go by departments?
It's the employees.
It's the entire organization.
But maybe there's,
It's not for the council. We're not evaluating the council. We're not evaluating the county manager.
We're not taking the survey.
The employees,
No, but-
including you, could take the survey weighing in on the county, and that can be done by department. So we can roll up data by department instead of the whole county.
because I'm thinking that maybe they're fine with generally, but maybe specifically their department. I'm just asking the question.
In other government agencies, we've been able to provide the survey and the first question is, what department do you belong to? And they decide that, and so we can run up a report for each department and then have an aggregate for the whole. We can do it a lot of different ways.
Have you ever had an experience where an organization has done a survey, taken some action as a result, and then taken the post-survey and things have gotten worse?
I haven't. Because most organizations that do this kind of survey will even, they're either not serious enough about doing more development work that they don't even do a post-assessment. And if they want a post-assessment, they will usually have been active doing something to move them again.
Based on what the reason.
My concern is, I can see this being a benefit, but I think it would be too general, very pinpoint to identify the problem. So how do we handle that?
Well, it's going to give you very specific behavioral feedback. So how transparent are we? How do we do at righting wrongs? How do we do at confronting reality and talking straight? How do we do at extending trust, listening, all of which make a leader a great leader? And
Somebody in the treasurer's office may have a different point of view than somebody at the solid waste transfer station.
of course, that's why you probably want to roll it up by department.
So then that's going to be directed to their immediate supervisor.
Is that one cost, or is that 1,500
All
for
the
each
same.
department?
I would think that if you did it per department, it could be a good thing instead of targeting on Mike and the council as a whole. I would love to know what my people say. What can help me? I'm sure you could.
Now, let me be clear, this does not measure council. It doesn't measure you, Mike. It measures the county government as a whole, and that can be done by department, and the data can be rolled up so you all can see the whole. So,
Mr. Chairman, where this is on manager's report, is this something that would require a motion?
Probably not, but it's your decision, it's not whether
Mike's
you do it.
purview to do it or not do it.
If the council wants me to do it, we're going to do it.
Now, let me talk about that piece. I'm looking, and the 1,500 isn't a lot of money. I'm looking at our budget. We have two areas, community projects or council discretionary, that we have money to easily cover the 1,500. If we as a council feels this is something that we could benefit, Mike could benefit from, the council could benefit, or the county could benefit from, I would like to see that we support it to help pay for it as a council from one of those two budget items.
Mr. Chairman, we also, I think, have the funds from our board.
I think that's the
It's one of them's in
Yeah, one of
there.
them.
Yeah, I couldn't pin down, yeah, it's in there, and it's one of those two categories. So there's money to cover the 1,500s. And I would think that would be, if we want to direct Mike to do this, I would like us to do it by paying for it as a council.
We had Mike talk to his
Department
department
heads.
and see how they view this.
We've already
I mean, it
got
could be a
one.
positive thing, it could be a negative.
Well, I think you need to, in my opinion, I think you need to take it out of Mike's hands because it's going to look like Mike's the one that's promoting this one way or another.
Well, it is.
Then it's going to look negative on him.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it needs to
individual
come from the department heads one way or another if we're going to do a correct and honest survey.
Well, I think they could easily share, but this is, the council would like to look at this, and that benefits.
But I mean, what is Mike, does Mike poll all of his department heads, or you, if there's a majority doesn't, absolutely. If there's a minority doesn't,
It's up to him. Yes.
So if it's gonna be anonymous, Carl's gonna kinda know who it is, right?
Well, I don't think the results, from a department, the results are just gonna back to the department average, not an individual in the department. You know, like one department has one influence.
well, in that case,
So there's no names, but everybody will know. That's
so the department heads will know, the survey will not evaluate the department head, the survey will evaluate the department.
And what the perception of
What
the
the
department.
perception is within the department. And if there are only 2 people in a department, we can't run a report.
Because
System
of
will,
that.
there has to be at least 3 respondents, or the system won't let us run a report, just to protect them.
So if we had a department like that, you might need to combine 2 departments together that were closely related.
And we've done that before.
When you did this, Steve, or Mike, when you talked about this, Mike, what all, did we include every department? Solid waste, that's an SSD, but is it counted against the department that you're running at? I mean, if we're gonna do it, we ought to include absolutely everything. Don's department,
But if you combine it with everyone, you're not really telling.
Right, so we won't combine it, but we.
No, I like to, well, you take each department, you get a report by department, plus an anchor to all of them, right?
When we work out the logistics, we're going to do about it quickly, soon before the budget process starts to drop people flying.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see us go ahead and move forward tonight on this. The first one department head, would like to see it. I don't want to.
Buff, was that a vote yes?
I think it'd be a positive thing for the county. I don't see any negative in two departments, both saying yes. I don't see any negative that we're going to see from this, so I'd like to see.
How many departments are there?
The departments.
Oh, Don's a department head too, I didn't see that.
Oh, I think.
You can't possibly vote against it now.
You have elected officials. Right. And then you have departments. I think total we're about 14, 15. Start talking about that.
Well, the elected officials are the heads of their department, right?
No, they're elected officials, never called elected official department.
Well,
You can call me whatever you want.
yeah, we get called a lot worse than that.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. Well,
So, council, do we need a motion to say if Mike decides to do this, we will pay for it? You're willing to pay for it out of our budget?
I'll make that motion.
Show of hands.
Well,
We just not an actual.
It's not a motion, it's
not-
a show of
No,
hands.
we had it on as discussion.
It's discussion only.
Oh, no, it's just a discussion.
Well, it's ultimately not our
Straw poll.
It is.
We're making a
We'll make a
recommendation.
decision on the we'll pay for it or not out of one of our
Let's
budget.
just do a straw poll by raising hands.
Okay, and so this is if Mike says yes to it, we pay for it. Is that what
Those are the
we're?
agreed
That's
to.
fine.
Okay. Mike, it's in your purview if you think it's.
There's another one.
Bellis.
Look at him smelling, got some money out of us.
A final thought I might add to this as I'm thinking to make this really constructive is I would be willing, when every department head receives their results, to sit down with them one by one and give them a little coaching. And again, on the house, you know, if I'm a resident, I'm busy, I got a full-time job, I'm not looking for compensation here, but I would be willing to do that if the desire was there. Just to make it more valuable to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
to clarify that vote, so we gave, county manager the approval to go ahead and do this. And we will pay for it.
We've agreed to pay for it out of one of our.
We just agreed to pay for it.
His decision.
He's going to talk to the heads of the department, right? And decide?
Well, you know,
I don't think there's been anything.
Are you gonna do it or not?
He can decide
I
how.
thought that was a good idea to ask the department heads. How many department heads do we have here tonight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Raise your hands, who wants to do it?
I would like to do one.
Okay, everybody raise your hand if you want to do it.
Come on, Don, get it up there.
Jamie? Oh my God.
Jamie's a department head.
Okay, it's in your purview, Mike. You had one other item.